Snacks with Sitara.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Snacks with Sitara on Bite. So this week is World Food Week, so I've decided to cook my favourite world food for you all. It's the biryani. So biryani changes wherever you go over Asia. So you get, in India you've got the Bombay and Hyderabad biryani, which is very popular. You've got the dum biryani, and then you've also got Pakistani biryani. Pakistani biryani, in my opinion, is a lot more fragrant, so I'm going to be cooking that today. Before we begin, I'll show you the ingredients that we've got. There's quite a few for this one. So with any type of Indian cooking, I like to use ghee. My mum always says that if you're cooking to be healthy, then obviously you can use spray oil, you can substitute, but when you have guests coming, you use ghee. It's just a richer flavour, it helps the whole dish come alive. We've then got a special family blend of biryani spice. Can't tell you everything that's in there, it's a secret, but lots of cardamom, chilli and cinnamon mixed in. We've then got cumin seeds and star aniseed. Chopped tomatoes, which have been pulsed in the NutriBullet a little bit. Then we've got minced chilli, garlic and ginger. Loads of flavour, you can smell it already. It smells really good. We've got some shots because this is going to be very serious. No, we've actually got some rose water and cura water. This helps the biryani be quite fragrant. Not floral, but it just gives that nice sort of smell to it, and it helps it taste like it's got something aromatic in it almost. We've then got some diced onions and sliced onions. So the sliced onions are actually to be fried, to be made quite caramelised and put over the top once you've layered the biryani. The diced are for the base. The base is called a tadka, which is what we're going to be mixing with the onion, garlic and chilli. We've got chopped coriander, which is a staple in all Indian cooking. Lemon juice to add in whilst we're making the base, just to give it a tang. And then we've got our spices here. So we've got coriander seeds, turmeric, bay leaves, chili powder, coriander powder, and just some table salt. I actually prefer to use the pink rock salt over the table salt, so I will be using that instead, but any is fine for this dish, it won't make too much of a difference. We've then got some potatoes. I like to use the baby potatoes, which some I've cut depending on size into halves, and then some are small enough to just be cooked whole. We want them to be not mashed at all whilst they're cooking, to be sort of cooked through but still have a bit of crunch to them. And then I have used the chicken breast mini fillets and diced them up. The reason why I chose mini fillets is that when I cook with them, I find they're a lot juicier and they cook a lot quicker. A lot of people prefer to use chicken thighs, they say that it has a lot more flavour, but I find the thighs a lot more fatty and tough when you're cooking a biryani, so I prefer to use the mini fillets. It's quicker and more convenient as well. And I'll be serving the biryani with a raita. So we've got some plain yogurt here, and then some grated cucumber, which I did before we started, just so it can sit and we can soak up the moisture with a tissue later on. And then here we have the rice. Now, it's really important that you soak your rice before cooking. This has been soaking for about half an hour now, and I've soaked it because then it becomes a lot more fluffier when you cook it, and when you layer it, it just mixes in really well, takes in all the smell, all the flavour, and it just gives it a nicer touch, a nicer finish. Right, so before we begin with the actual chicken and potato sauce part, we're going to put the rice on to cook. You don't want to overcook your rice, so you're going to put it on very low heat to start with. Once it gets to boiling point, you can move it up slightly. But the whole point of the rice is that basmati rice is very long, very thin. You just want it to cook so it's fluffy. You don't want to make it mashy. You don't want it to be sticky. You just want it to be thin, separated, and fluffy. Prep time usually will take about 25 minutes for this, so that's out of the way. I've pre-prepped everything here. To actually cook this, it's going to take about 40 minutes. You want to make sure that your potatoes are soft and your chicken is cooked through. Really important, you might get ill otherwise. sort of put the heat on for quite low heat at the moment. The hob is actually, the one I'm using is a very big one, so we do need it on low heat. It will already be high as it is, so not too high. Then we'll add, first we're going to add some ghee. Just putting a teaspoon in for now. Ooh, if everyone wants to leave the spoon. Actually going to add a little bit more. You can always go over the top with ghee and it will never reflect badly on the dish. So as that heats up, we're going to add a pinch of cumin seeds. So what we're making right now is our tadka. So the tadka consists of the cumin seeds, the minced garlic, ginger and chilli, which we'll be putting all of in. The diced onions, I'm going to let that cook together. What we want for this is we want it to go very, very brown. A lot of people will say that you almost burn it and then you add a tiny, tiny dash of liquid. So we're going to add a little bit of the tomato bit by bit to bring it back to life and stop it from getting completely burnt. But we really, really want to brown it. If you think the pan is going too dry, you can always add more ghee. Always leave a little for you to add on. Make sure you're breaking up the onions that are sort of chunked together still in the pan. It's nice to use a wooden spoon that's sort of straight, so you can just go in, like stab it a little bit, let it know who's boss. So now that the onions, garlic, ginger, chilli and the cumin seeds are browning a little, they should be sticking to the pan and they should be sizzling a little bit. That's okay. It's nothing to panic about if that is happening. You can always add more ghee if you feel like you need to just add a bit more moisture to the pan. We're going to add in some of our dry spices now. I'm going to be adding in some coriander seeds. Right, and then we're going to be adding 2 cloves. Actually, 3 cloves. I'm going to go in with half a teaspoon of the coriander powder. A very small amount of chili powder. We can add more if we need to at the end because this is very, very strong and we've also got fresh chili in here already. So we don't want to overdo it. A whole lot of turmeric, or as we like to call it, haldi. A little bit more. And some salt. It's all sticking to the pan now. And you just want to sort of scrape as you go and mix it in. You want it to almost burn, but not burn. Save it at the last minute, which is what we're now going to do. So slowly we're going to add in this tin tomato paste, just to give it a bit of that moisture. Do not add this in all at once, it will just ruin the flavour of the dish. It will just make it very soupy, and that's not what we want. This is actually the base for most curries, so even if you're making chicken curry, this is how we would begin. So now we're going to add in our meat. We want this to cook in the dry sort of paste that we've got going on, just so it marinates it and smokes it a little. Now the meat is completely covered with the paste, we can add the potatoes. There's just one that won't leave. We'll add that in also. And again, just mix it all in together. Very dry now, but it's fine, it's not a problem. The chicken is actually going to release moisture anyway, so you don't want to add in any water or anything straight away, you just want to let the chicken do its thing. We're now going to add the remainder of the tomatoes in. And what we're also going to do is fill this up with some tap water, just to get the rest of the sauce around it, and we'll be needing to add more water to the dish throughout. So that is filled up with some water, just so you can keep adding in. We'll mix the tomatoes in. We're now going to add in the special biryani spice blend. So in here we've got lots of cardamom seeds, we've got some cinnamon, and a bunch of other secret ingredients. This is a family spice blend, so I have to take it to my grave. To be honest, I'm not even completely sure what's in here. It's my mum's, and before that it was my grandma's, so I'm not really allowed to know the secret yet. I'm not special enough. Not all of you are going to have a mother or a grandmother to pass theirs down to you. This is really easy. I even do this sometimes when I'm cheating, and it tastes exactly the same. It's just as beautiful. You can pick up in your local supermarket, in the wild food section, they will have a spice mix ready made, and it will basically look almost like this, mixed in, and you can add the same amount to it. They usually don't differ a lot. It's just that some families add that special extra ingredient. But I'm adding something special to this anyway, which you'll be able to find in the supermarket, and that is Cura water. So we're going to add a shot of this in, not all of it at once, just a small amount. We can add more later as we need. This helps tenderise the chicken as we're cooking it as well. And we've got the rose water. Again, we don't need all of it. We mix that in, it just gives it that aromatic smell, which is actually really good. Some fresh lemon juice now. You just want to make sure we've got the seeds out. You can just grab a spoon. You don't want to go into the cooking. So we'll just squeeze that in. Right, so now we're going to be adding in our coriander. We want our coriander to cook with everything in here and release all the flavour. So we're just going to chuck it all in. Make sure we've got everything. Adds a nice colour as well. It's all looking very red right now, so this will add a nice green into it. So now that we've got the coriander in, it's nice. We've got a nice colour scheme going on. You've got the reds, you've got a bit of the green, and then you've got the yellow from the potato and the chicken that's been dyed by the turmeric. It's bubbling away and it looks really good. We do want it to be quite saucy initially, so it can cook. It's almost like we're going to be boiling the potatoes within the sauce because they're completely hard at the moment and we want them to cook through. So we'll add a bit of water. And depending on the smell, if you can't really pick up any of the rose water or the Cura water that you've added, you've got enough here to add a bit more, so you can just dash a bit extra in. And then finally, we're going to add a bit of star aniseed to it. We're just going to let that soak inside. This will be taken out before we serve and layer, because otherwise it can get very overpowering. I mean, even if you leave it until the next day of the meal, if you keep the star aniseed in there, it's going to keep releasing flavour, and it's just sometimes a bit too much. So we've added that in. All that's left to do with this now is stick the lid on and let it do its own thing, let it cook. We'll come back, have a taste, see how we feel about it, and if we like it, then we'll let it cook a bit longer. If not, we've got our spices here to keep adding. So we've now turned the heat off on this, and I think it's cooked. We're going to have a quick look and check. So it's time for the moment of truth where we take the lid off. It looks pretty cooked to me. I'll give it a stir, prod the potatoes to make sure they're soft. We don't want them to go mushy. Yeah, it's perfect. Whilst you're stirring again, you've got to be quite careful. You don't want to squash anything. You don't even want to break the chicken up too much. So before we go any further, you just grab one of the spoons that you're using to add in the ghee. We want to take the bay leaf out. Try not to take any of the sauce out with it. So we'll take the bay leaf out. And we've also got to have a quick search for the star aniseed. It's like a treasure hunt. We'll find it eventually. There it is. So we've also got to take that out. Again, just try to take that out. Don't try and avoid grabbing like onions and coriander and stuff. There we go. That's great. So now we can begin layering. The whole point of biryani is layers. So we're going to do a layer of meat, a layer of rice, a layer of meat, a layer of rice. And then we're going to fry some onions and have them over the top. And then when you dig in, you'll get all the layers with the onions onto your plate. I'll just move this out of the way. So I'm going to layer it in a glass sort of container for you, just so you can see the layers as well visually. I mean, usually they're actually in like ceramic painted pots, or we actually layer it in the pot, but I thought it'd be good for you guys to see what it looks like as I layer it. So we've got the rice here, which I've drained, and it's come out really nice and fluffy, which was a result of soaking it. So we're going to start layering now. Our first layer is going to be the meat and potatoes. So just grab a spoon, gently pick it up, place it in. It's fine, it doesn't have to look pretty. You don't need to have your chickens in a line or anything. It's fine to just go in as it is. So our next layer is now going to be the rice. So you can see it's really nice and separate, really fluffy. You actually, once you drain rice, you can rinse it with some cold water, and that helps it keep separate, and it's still steaming, so it's not gone really cold. It just helps it separate so it doesn't end up clumping together with the starch that may still be surrounding rice and get sticky. So we'll do a layer of rice now. So we've now got our final layer on the biryani. So we've done 2 rice, 2 meats. I'm not sure how well you can see the layers, but they are all together. It doesn't look like it's been mixed in a lot, but when you put the spoon in and plate it up, it will all mix together and it will be really, really nice. So what we have to do now is caramelize some onions, and we're going to layer them on top. This is going to be very quick. So we're going to keep this on high heat. I'm just going to spray some oil on. I like to use garlic oil because it then flavours the onions quite nicely as well. We can go a bit OTT with the oil this time. We're just going to put them straight into the pan, and we'll let that cook by itself. Whilst that's frying, I'm going to bring over the yogurt and the cucumber, and we're going to make the raita that we're going to serve the biryani with. So we've got our cucumber here already grated. Cucumber releases a lot of water. I have tried to drain most of it by using just a tissue to soak it up, but there is always going to be a little bit, and that's fine because it will mix in well with the yogurt. I like to use low-fat Greek style yogurt. So we'll just pour this all in. A lot of people like to add different spices and even pomegranate to their raita. I don't like to add anything else to it. There's enough flavour in the biryani itself. I think it's just better to keep it simple. So now we're just going to break our onion up whilst it's cooking. It should have started to brown underneath by now. You can take this off the heat and move it directly onto the biryani. Just evenly spread them over. I'm using a traditional rice spoon. It's called a papio. And then we'll add some raita on the side. So here we have it, biryani with raita.